which player out there would you like to play with? Like, who do you see?
You know, everybody wants to play with the best players in the world. You know, I would love to go out there and play with, you know, a dude like LeBron James, you know, but you're not going to get those type of opportunities, I don't think.
The Chicago Bulls were one of the biggest surprises in the NBA this past season, and I know when you look at their final ranking of the season and they only finished in 6th place, when you consider how freaking competitive the East was this year, you have to admit that they had a very impressive season considering what their preseason expectations were. And if you also consider the fact that they had some key players in and out of lineups like Zach Lavine, and they lost one of their biggest acquisitions this past year in Lonzo Ball from the end of December and on, I would say that they definitely blew away all of our expectations. Now, as a result of this past season, there's a huge question mark going into the offseason, and that is what is to become of Zach Lavine. We're going to break all of that in this video. Before we get to the content, on May 15th, I'm giving away $500 to a subscriber that turns on our notifications on this channel. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. If you're a subscriber to my channel, you know at this point that I'm very passionate about what I do. I upload daily to multiple channels, and as a result, whenever my friends want to go out and have a few drinks, I usually have to turn them down. Now, thankfully, there is a product called ZBiotics, which is here to fix all of that. All you have to do is, before you decide to go out and have a drink, you just consume one of these really tiny bottles of a modified probiotic that is designed to decrease the amount of acetaldehyde that is produced, which is what alcohol gets converted into in the gut. So by targeting your gut, I'm not going to say that they completely eliminate your hangovers, but they make it so you can at least go to work the next morning, assuming you drank responsibly the night before. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this is probably the coolest product I've ever been sponsored by. And right now, when you use my promo code FLIGHT, you'll get 15% off of your first order of ZBiotics. That's promo code FLIGHT to get 15% off of your first order of ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic. And thank you, ZBiotics, for the sponsorship. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Ever since getting traded to the Chicago Bulls, one could actually say that Zach Lavine broke out tremendously, going from a player that averaged about 14 to 18 points per game to a guy that averages anywhere from 25 to 27 points per game. And as a result, he became a bona fide franchise cornerstone for the Chicago Bulls. And you can make the argument that this man is without a doubt in his prime. An ACL injury didn't sap him of his talent, which some people even predicted as a result of him being very dependent on his athleticism, and he is definitely everything you look for in a modern NBA 2 guard. A man that shoots nearly 40% from 3, and a player that could slide onto any team in the NBA and provide them with an instant boost on the offensive end. And interestingly enough, Zach Lavine is also entering unrestricted free agency. For those of you guys that don't know, after 4 years of a NBA player's career, they enter restricted free agency, and in restricted free agency, they are going to get paid, assuming that a team actually wants their services. A team could sign said player after his rookie scale contract to any offer sheet, but their original team has the option to match that offer. So really, the player doesn't get 100% freedom of where they go, but in unrestricted free agency, they do. They get to choose any team they want that wants their services to eventually go ahead and join them. And while in the past there was significant incentives to stay with the team that drafted you as a result of player empowerment recently, some players would take that opportunity to go elsewhere the moment they get the opportunity. Now, in Zach Lavine's case, he's in a very unique situation. Zach Lavine was considered to be the Chicago Bulls franchise cornerstone ever since he was traded there. Now, this past year, things became a little different. The Chicago Bulls acquired DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso. They traded for Nikola Vucevic during the trade deadline 1 year ago, and they definitely put the necessary pieces around Zach Lavine to really jump into Eastern Conference contention. Now, whether or not this core is enough to win an NBA championship really depends on who you ask, because at the same time, one would think that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons would be enough to win a championship, but unfortunately they were not able to put it together. The NBA is filled with surprises, and at the end of the day, that's why the games are played. In this case, Zach Lavine is placed in a very unique situation because he didn't go out and reaffirm his commitment to the Chicago Bulls. Although he did say he was open to re-signing with the Chicago Bulls, at the same time he wants to explore free agency. And and this was reported by ESPN on April 29, 2022, making it clear that he plans to explore the market as an unrestricted free agent for the first time in his career, calling it a big decision for him and his family. He insisted that he is keeping an open mind as much as he enjoyed his 5 seasons in Chicago. The exact quote is, "I plan to enjoy free agency. We're going to have to experience A through Z without making any fast decisions." I think that's something me and my agent, Rich Paul, are going to go through and experience. We're gonna get to Rich Paul and Clutch Sports in just a minute. He continues to say that you guys have been a really soft spot in my heart. I have to do this as a business decision as a man to not just be viewed one way and be like I'm automatically coming back or I'm automatically leaving. Man, there's nothing that turns Lakers fans on more than hearing that name. Not even LeBron James, but Rich Paul. Automatically, each and every single Laker fan is going to think, oh my God, Zach Lavine, he went to UCLA. And oh my God, LeBron James, his agent is Rich Paul. Rich Paul brings players to play with LeBron James, like he did with Anthony Davis. Oh my goodness, Zach Lavine's coming to the Lakers. It's gonna be crazy. And as someone that considers himself as a logical Laker fan, I don't know, you guys could let me know in the comment section down below how reasonable I am as a Laker fan. I wanted to break this down for you guys because yes, the Los Angeles Lakers are in desperate need of some help. They really need some help. I mean, they are cap strapped, they're in salary cap hell, they are committing money to 3 players that just don't work out with each other. There's a huge mess that needs to be cleaned up for the Lakers if they want to make the most out of LeBron James's final years with the Lakers, assuming that LeBron James even wants to re-sign with the Lakers after his contract is up. Let me get one thing clear. The Lakers are not going to trade LeBron James. There's nobody that is more in control of their career than LeBron James. If LeBron James wanted to get traded to the Charlotte Hornets to play with LaMelo Ball, he could make it happen. That's how in control of his career he is. I mean, look no further than the acquisition of Russell Westbrook. Originally, the plan was Buddy Hield and DeMar DeRozan teaming up with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. LeBron said, no, I want Russell Westbrook to team up with us instead, and that's the direction that the Lakers ended up going in. Now, in this instance, there is one quote, one very viral quote that is coming out that Zach Lavine said 2 years ago. Now, I want to make this clear because one thing that the media loves to do is take quotes that are completely out of context and say, oh my God, this is relevant now. There was one point 2 years ago where Zach Lavine came out and said that I would love to go out there and play with LeBron James. Now, you also have to bear in mind that this quote was said during All-Star Weekend. And during All-Star Weekend, if there's something we all know about LeBron James, that's when he's doing his most recruiting. It's really funny because you're seeing NBA pages take this and pass it off as if it was said very recently without giving you any context at all whatsoever. I also understand it's a cute story. Just as Russell Westbrook went to UCLA and maybe he wants to find his way back to Los Angeles to play for the Los Angeles Lakers, it would make a lot of sense for Zach Lavine, who's also a UCLA Bruin, to want to go back and play under a max contract alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Unfortunately, it is not that simple. As much as I would love to see it, it is not that freaking simple. And there's no better individual to explain this than Eric Pincus, who is an expert on the salary cap. So if someone asks Eric Pincus, can the Lakers do a 3-way sign and trade for Zach Lavine, and will that hard cap them? So for those of you guys that don't know what the hard cap is, usually there is a luxury tax apron that teams can pay if they go over the soft cap. If you happen to be a team that acquires way too much talent and is paying significant sums of money to retain that talent, you will eventually eat into the luxury tax. Eventually, there's only so much luxury tax that you're allowed to pay, and as a result of that, you eventually reach the hard cap, which is the cap that you're not allowed to exceed. Now, the hard cap isn't always there. The hard cap is there in 3 instances. The 3 instances where a hard cap can be instated is 1, if a team sends you a player via sign and trade, which is what the Lakers would have to do in this instance. The second being a player that's retained in restricted free agency, and the third, of course, being a player that is retained via bird rights. And in this case, the Lakers would only be able to acquire Zach Lavine, who is a restricted free agent, via a sign and trade where they would have to offload some of their salary cap. And as a result, instead of being able to pay luxury tax, which is what they are currently doing, which is very pathetic considering how this team didn't even make it to the NBA playoffs, they would now have a hard cap where they cannot go above this cap no matter what. That's what Eric Pincus is saying here. If the Lakers acquire a player player via sign and trade, they have a hard cap. So does this mean that the Lakers would potentially acquire Zach Lavine? Well, Pincus says that mathematically they could, but practically they probably won't. It's technically possible, and this will make this a daily question on Twitter for the next few months, though probably also would have been if impossible. We're splitting hairs. So what Pincus is trying to say is no matter what, whether it's possible or not, you're gonna have Stephen A. Smith going on First Take saying that the Lakers should do it.
We have a problem.
So to answer your question, yes, the Lakers could acquire Zach Lavine, but would they try to impose a hard cap upon themselves as a result of acquiring Zach Lavine, which would essentially handicap them? I highly doubt it. I think for the Lakers, it would make more sense for them to acquire Malcolm Brogdon and Buddy Hield, although they're not nearly on the same tier as Zach Lavine. I don't think replacing Russell Westbrook with Zach Lavine and having a bunch of veteran minimum contracts would make things that much better for the Los Angeles Lakers. Maybe marginally, but in a vacuum, I see them being maybe a 5th seed at best. That begs the question, what team's the most likely to add a player like Zach Lavine? Well, DeJounte Murray actually photoshopped Zach Lavine in a Spurs jersey because the San Antonio Spurs are projected to have a significant amount of cap space. Other teams that are contenders are teams like the Indiana Pacers, the Detroit Pistons, Orlando Magic. All of these teams have the cap space to sign a player like Zach Lavine. Will it end up happening though? That's something we're gonna have to keep an eye on. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think is gonna happen. Do you think Zach Lavine's gonna re-sign with the Chicago Bulls, or do you see him going elsewhere? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.